Welcome back everyone to Hearts of Iron 4, even though I'm not the one playing. This time I'm just going to be talking about like my opinions about the new DLC. It's just going to be a very kind of rambly, hopefully quick opinion video. No real I guess you could say study or analysis behind this. It's just like a few of the things that the developers mentioned they're going to be in and my opinions about them. Didn't really have a lot of time to look at the newest dev diary on the nationalist Chinese focus tree, or just in general about nationalist China, and I will be doing that soon. Should be expecting something about that maybe tomorrow, maybe in the next few days, who knows, because I mean China's kind of my thing. I like that they're actually kind of giving more attention to it. In case you remember, like way back in the day, my first playthrough was actually as nationalist China in Hearts of Iron 4, so it's gonna be nice to see them go ahead and actually kind of develop that area a little bit. But yeah, so the Waking the Tiger DLC, in case you don't know, is going to be the newest DLC for Hearts of Iron 4. It's going to be bigger than the other ones that they have had so far, and it's, in my opinion, this is the DLC that they should have started off with, because, well, maybe even like a combination of this and Together for Victory. Yeah, it would have taken a long time to get out, but, you know, it would have been pretty great. Anyway, not just because it's about like the country pack that is going to be in it is going to be about Asia, so of course a very, very important part of the game. If in any kind of like World War II historical title, you should really think about like the way you're going to do Asia, because it's actually very important to the timeline, like historically, without really going into this too in depth. But like obviously China was involved in World War II even before World War II started. Like some historians put the starting date of World War II actually in 1937 at the Marco Polo Bridge incident, when the Second Sino-Japanese War began. Because the reasoning is like, well, I mean, if you're gonna be starting off World War II at the time when you know, the Germans invade Poland, might as well just start it off a little bit earlier, because later you're gonna merge the Sino-Japanese conflict with World War II anyway, after Pearl Harbor. I don't 100% agree with this, but yeah, you can see the reason behind it. It's very, very much part of that same historical process that is disruption of collective security, and in general the rearmament of the great powers and the higher expansionism of rising great powers like Germany and Japan. That's just generally what you could say caused World War II as a whole, and you know, it's also what caused the Second Sino-Japanese War. So that rant over. Anyway, not just because of that, but also because the actual DLC is gonna improve a lot of things in its features that, in my opinion, should have been right there from the start. Like maybe you're gonna be seeing right now on the screen, depending on how I edit this. I'm gonna have a lot of the footage from the stream that they had just to showcase a few features. The interface just got improved a whole heck of a lot in several different areas. And honestly, the interface is actually, along with the AI, my biggest issue with Hearts of Iron 4. Because it's just very, very annoying to use. It looks good, but sometimes it's just like, ugh. It doesn't really work the way you actually want to. And you're always thinking, oh, why can't I just have a way to do this or to do that? And they've actually improved quite a bit of that. They're also going to improve the way that sort of chain of command works. Of course, I've already talked about that. I'm actually talked about a few of these things already in my dev diary overview videos. But yeah, they're going to overview the chain of command, which is pretty great. Some of the changes that they're going to make haven't been showcased yet, or rather weren't showcased yet when I started to overview the dev diary, but now we know that they exist. Like, for example, generals have like special abilities. That's just kind of weird. I mean, I don't care too much. I don't really treat Hearts of Iron 4 as like a simulation war game, so it's kind of fine for me. If they want to go for the more arcadey stuff, it's kind of okay. But then they also overhaul like the way, I guess you could say, the game progresses. So you're not going to only have national focuses and events that can change around what happens, but also decisions. and the decisions also have a dev diary that I didn't really get time to look at. But yeah, that's kind of okay. Although again, it just kind of shows how weird it has been so far. That such a, I guess you could say, pivotal part of a lot of Paradox games. Actually, I mean, decisions have been around since EU3, I think. Yeah, basically since Europa Universalis 3. So like that's like 10 years ago or something. It's interesting that it wasn't in Hearts of Iron 4 at the start. So what that like kind of tells me is that they were trying to do something else with the game that they realized doesn't really work. Like, there seems to be a few game design issues when it comes to Hearts of Iron 4's like continuity of like vision. They want to do something, and then they're like, nah, this doesn't work, and then they replace it with something else. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. It just kind of adds to the feeling that we've been kind of playing a beta so far. And now maybe finally we'll get what I guess you could consider a finished game. I don't know. My hope for this DLC, generally, just gonna give this right off the bat, is that we are gonna finally have a playable game in vanilla. Like, and by playable, I mean that it's actually gonna be like fun. That is to say, if they improve the AI enough, and of course with the developments to the interface and a few of the extra features like the decisions, then we're gonna have finally a pretty decent experience in vanilla without any mods, which should hopefully be quite nice. I mean, all of that depends on whether or not they improve the AI, and again, these DLC features actually work. But yeah, that's gonna hopefully be quite good. Also, of course, they've added a few new modifiers, and they've changed around how a few of their systems work. So instead of like political power and all that stuff, now you have political power, stability, and war support instead of course, national unity, political power. Then you also have command power, which is a weird thing. I'm not really 100% on how that works, but apparently it's used to like promote generals and such. So it's a little bit like political power except for the army. I'm not 100% that that's a good idea, but it's also gonna replace a few of the things that army experience was used for, I think. I don't know, not sure. I really like the stability and war support system. I think it's pretty great. And I really like how they're kind of reworking a few of the national focus trees that were around earlier, but that weren't as good. Like, they mentioned Japan, of course, because, well, it's Asia, blah, blah, blah. So that's getting reworked. They're gonna also overhaul Japanese focus tree. The Japanese focus tree. And, of course, hopefully, they're gonna integrate some of the new features as well. Like, for example, you do have the option, also in the new German focus tree, to, like, increase or decrease your war support, depending on which paths you go down, and that's pretty interesting also because it kind of makes more sense this way, I guess you could say, and it's gonna make for a more smooth and realistic, #realistic, I know everybody loves that word, transition from peacetime to World War II. And yeah, so those are the main things that they're gonna overhaul. Like, the new German focus trees is like, ugh, I mean, I guess Germany is going to be much more interesting overhaul, though, because of the new decision system. There's also going to be, like, missions that you're going to get assigned, and you're going to get bonuses for completing. So you're going to have your path to war be, like, influenced by these things, and that's going to be a lot more interesting to play. Also, because of the decisions, you're going to be able to do things like react very quickly to things, like, for example, the Case Anton is gonna be pretty cool. Like, that is the annexation of Vichy France. If you're gonna have, like, for example, I read in the dev diary, like, if your panzers reach Toulouse, or no, sorry, not Toulouse, Toulon, which is the base of the fleet for Vichy France, you're gonna get all the ships because they're not gonna have time to scuttle them, which is actually historical. Like, you should actually go really read about a little bit Case Anton and the way the French fleet just kind of like delayed and scuttled itself. It's all very interesting. But yeah, that's all some very, very interesting things that you can do and that are going to be around. And then in the end, the last thing I kind of wanted to mention is how they handle the Chinese stuff very quickly, they're gonna have a, of course, nationalist China focus tree, but it's also gonna be one for communist China. And then there's also gonna be one for all of the warlords. Now, the warlords being Xinjiang, Sibei Sama, Shanxi, the Guangxi clique, Yunnan, and I believe also they said Manchukuo, but I didn't really understand because they just kind of blurted out something about Manchukuo, and I had no idea because they just said it very quickly in the middle of a lot of other stuff. So I do not know if Manchukuo is going to have a focus tree. No Tibet, no Mongolia, obviously. But yeah, that's what they're going to go for, and all of the warlords have the same focus tree. Whereas, of course, China and the communist China have different ones. Hopefully, it's all going to be interesting enough. I mean, it really depends on how they do the warlords. That's something that they can really screw up. But, of course, the main ones that they need to get right are China and Com China. It depends. It depends. Now, it's going to be especially hard to get communist China right. Which actually a few mods have done, but hey, you never really know what's gonna happen. So far, what I've seen of the nationalist China tree, it's pretty interesting. I'm not 100% agreeing on the way they decided to like interpret, because you could say, the history of nationalist China and what Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jieshi, the leader of nationalist China, actually had in mind. I don't actually agree with the history right there, but the actual focus tree itself seems useful. And of course, I'm going to talk more about it when my Nationalist China Dev Diary video comes out. But yeah, I'm no expert, but that's just kind of my opinion. And about the Japanese focus tree, hold on, let me take a sip of water. So the Japanese focus tree, it looks pretty interesting, although it's weird that they have a communist path. I don't know. I have no idea where that comes from. Anyway, basically, the interesting stuff is going to be with the Kodoha, which is the Imperial Wei faction, which was a sort of clique within the army that was very, very much nationalist. And then they tried to make a coup d'etat, so you're going to have an option of either like supporting them or, as historically done, purge them. Although seriously, I have no idea like what difference is that gonna make, because they're nationalist, imperialist, you know, all that stuff, and their opponents are nationalist, imperialist, and all that stuff. So I'm not sure why they're putting so much effort into that when they perhaps could have just done like a, I guess you could say, event chain of the February 26th incident, which is like the coup event. Sorry for that. That set off all of that, but I don't know. Another thing that I found very interesting, and then I'm gonna end it off, is the way they handled the nationalist China focus tree, where you have a lot of your economy and research / army / air force / navy, all that mumbo jumbo stuff. Instead of just getting them like magically off nowhere, you're actually gonna be like inviting foreign. Well, I mean, you're still gonna be doing it magically, but the focus tree explains that you're inviting foreign advisors in, which is really the way it should be done for a lot of these minor nations. And it's interesting that you can do, like, for example, either Germany or the Soviets, either France or the Brits, and either the US or Japan, because it kind of represents like the way China had to play off various different other powers that had competing interests within China, but that China wasn't necessarily like precluded from talking to. And so it's very, very interesting how you're gonna be able to like get a few different types of perks from everyone. Like, for example, you're gonna have more, for example, for the American one, you're gonna be able to go down and get the flying tigers as well to help you out. I hope that that's gonna be also like that you're gonna get planes and stuff from that. And for example, if you decide to choose between the Germans or the Soviets, you're gonna be getting things that improve your land army. Like, historically, the Chinese had a lot of support before 1927 from the Soviet Union, then, well, it's very complicated, but that got cut off partially because of Chiang Kai-shek's policy that repressed the communists, and also partially because he decided to really cut off a lot of the ties, and that he decided to go to Germany, and Germany helped out in forming a lot of different elite divisions in the Nationalist Chinese Army that eventually are going to be the ones that fight the Japanese near Shanghai and Nanjing and get destroyed there. But basically, after the Japanese invade, then Japan actually kind of requests from Germany that their support for Nationalist China ends, and they kind of comply. And at that point, the Soviets come in and initiate Operation Z and send some assistance to Nationalist China as well. So you have this kind of like interplay between all of these great powers. Now, I'm sure that it's not going to be as interesting with just the way, of course, the focus trees work. It's kind of rigid, but it's a step in the right direction, and it's gonna overall just improve the way like the game overall portrays things, which is always kind of nice. More immersion, never bad. Anyway, just gonna end it off right now. Thank you for watching. Again, as I said, nothing too major, just my thoughts. And I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't to my channel for more of this stuff. And well, new videos are probably gonna be better than this one. This is just a ramble. But yeah, I'll see you soon.